Welcome in everybody to the Offsetting Penalties Podcast. We're back. I apologize. We were on a little bit of a hiatus, but we did the collab episode with the Here We Go podcast previewing Wildcard Weekend, and I got my boy, as usual, Monday nights, Gametime Grech, talking about Wildcard Weekend. Zach, how are we feeling? Crazy weekend. The last two games weren't as great, but we started really hot. How are you feeling about these 6 games that kick off the playoffs?
I mean, it's been crazy, man. It's been one of the best wild card weekends I've ever seen that I've gotten to witness since I've ever watched the game of football. And I think that's something that's big, not just for the entertainment value, but for people in sports industry in general. Whether you're a viewer, whether you're not a football lover, whether you just want to see the sport and are not even an avid football fan, you got some entertaining football for 90% of the games. 90% of the games. And when I mean 90% of the games, I mean tonight. It was kind of soul crushing to see one of the best quarterbacks to ever touch a football, and he got pummeled tonight. But other than that, a wild card weekend, I think it's going to be very hard to beat this weekend of football the rest of the way for divisional championship. It really set a tone, and even for years to come later on.
Absolutely. I think, there was a discussion this weekend, like, is this the best weekend of playoff football we've ever seen? And people do forget 2021, 2022 playoffs, that divisional round. There was four game down to the wire games. If you remember, that was when the Niners went to Lambeau, upset the Packers when the Packers were the 1 seed. Brady and the Bucks lost at the last second to Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp going deep. Josh Allen, Mahomes, the crazy infamous Chiefs-Bills game. That weekend was legendary. If you take that weekend aside, I think what we got this weekend is really hard to beat. The first 4 games of the weekend, all of those games featured lead changes in the fourth quarter. All of those games were decided by 4 or less points. It was really amazing to watch. And, wildcard weekend, we get it, especially since they added the extra team. Sometimes you get these like lopsided games between a 2 and a 7 seed. But as it's been the entire year, there's been so much parity in the NFL. And I think this first weekend of the playoffs was reflective of it. And I know you said it's going to be hard to top, but I sure hope so, because we'll get into it at the end of the episode a little later, but some exciting divisional matchups on the horizon.
No, 100%. These divisional matchups, man, they were something to watch, and I keep preaching that. But I think, like you're saying too, man. I think one thing about football that I've noticed, especially this year, is it can be anybody's game. It's a 4 quarter game. We saw that against the Green Bay and Chicago game. If you talk about the first half for Chicago, man, I mean, that just shows you the epitome of football when it was won by 4 quarters, and that's been the Bears game all night. But don't want to start off there, man. I just think
Yeah.
with the wild card, it talks about winning the lottery, and with people, it's like everyone has a chance to get those numbers right, but there's only one winner. Well, to be honest, there was multiple winners obviously in this wild card, but it shows the idea of what these coaches are and how they've grown. And all of these coaches brought something to the table, and they brought experience. But the newer coaches needed to have a chip on their shoulders, and a couple of them did very well for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not waste any more time. We'll go game by game. We'll talk some more lengthy than others because, of course, we went probably 4 for 6, 66. We shot 66% from the field this weekend. But it was really the first 4 games, and let's start with the one that kicked things off. The Rams walked into Carolina as massive favorites, and Carolina gave them all they could handle. This was a team that beat the Rams earlier in the year, and they showed maybe they have the Rams number. Obviously, they couldn't get it done in the end. The Rams win 34-31 to advance. They have a matchup with Chicago, which we'll talk about a little bit later, as we'll talk about Packers-Bears next. But the Rams, it was most people kind of thought, even though the Panthers beat them in the regular season, they were going to walk into Charlotte and steamroll them. But behind an awesome home crowd that hadn't seen playoff football in a while, it was a back and forth game. The Rams, it took a insane Colby Parkinson touchdown at the end to take the lead. Zach, what'd you see from this game, and what'd you like from Carolina really give the Rams all they could handle for a team that many people are picking to win the Super Bowl, including myself?
This is what I saw. Bryce Young, people need to realize something. Yes, he's not the most flashiest. Yes, he's not this, but the guy did ball out and had about one of the best games that we've seen by him. And what I saw from Carolina was a dogfight. They put everything to the table. For the Rams, they got the win, right? They got what they did. And Matthew Stafford put the team on his back towards the second half, but they got to give credit to this. That run game did very well. Devontae Adams had a nice game coming back. They got complimentary football in that. But what they need to understand is if this team is supposed to be that team in the NFC, if this team is supposed to be the ones that are going to go get that Lombardi trophy, they have a lot of questions to answer. Not only did Carolina were easy to pass on them, got a little struggle in completions. That's the one thing I saw from Carolina is the incompletions, but they got to run, but they also made big plays. They got 31 points on this Rams defense. 31, not 10, not 15, not what people were saying in LA on 710 Sports. Yes, I still listen to the radio. Don't clown on me. They say 42 points to only 15 the Panthers were going to score. That is very incorrect. It showed you right here that it was down the wire, and it took them literally the last couple plays for the Rams to win the game.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw. I don't know what you saw, but yeah.
No, I agree. I think a lot of times these matchups, every once in a while, you get a division winner like Carolina this year, an 8-9 team, an 8-8 team, one of these teams that like just kind of gets in because their division sucked and they were like the least sucky of the suckiest division in the league. And Carolina was that team this year, but we've seen in the past on multiple instances that sometimes those 4 seeds that get a home playoff game just because they won a really bad division, they end up playing really good ball in that wild card round. I think back to the Beastquake way back in the day with the Seahawks when they beat the defending champion New Orleans Saints as a 8-8 or 7-9 division winner. The Seahawks did. I even think back in the COVID season, the Buccaneers who ended up winning the Super Bowl, that wild card round, they faced Taylor Heineke and at the time the Washington football team, and the Washington now Commanders gave them everything they could handle in that game. So the 10.5 point line or whatever it was coming into this game was very disrespectful, especially considering Carolina beat them earlier in the year. You said it, Bryce Young, man. There have been some like rough moments from Bryce Young in the NFL. Even in that last Week 18 game against the Buccaneers, he threw a pick, and it was like, oh my gosh, what is he doing? But Bryce Young is a number 1 pick. He was a number 1 pick, and he was a player that the Carolina Panthers gave up a whole lot of compensation for. And you see glimpses of it, like you do. And I think we saw it in this game. He threw that touchdown to take the lead to Jalen Coker, was an over-the-shoulder, back left corner of the end zone to Coker. It was a great catch, but the ball could not have been any more perfect. There was no chance that Rams DB was getting a hand on it, and it was thrown to the only place Coker could catch the ball. He ran one in earlier in the game, and he really had great command of the offense throughout. We saw this at the end of last year. We're seeing it at moments this year. I don't mean to get into 2026 NFL season talks because we'll be talking about that plenty during the offseason when there's no football to talk about. But, I want to see Bryce Young put together a full 17-game season worth because we see the glimpses of it in games like this.
Yeah, no, look at. I think people in Carolina, I think they believe in Bryce Young. Do I think everybody else believes in Bryce Young? That's a 50-50 double-edged sword to say that they don't.
Yeah.
But you know what? He did answer the question, and he answered it very well to this. Can he get his team 30 points? Can he get his team toe-to-toe to one of the best offenses in the league? He did. And he did it. And you know what? If he can get in his training and get more completions, get more used to these receivers in the offseason, and finally maybe get a superstar receiver, this Carolina team will be the NFC South Division winners once again. And they also might even push a bigger playoff push, and they might even go on a deeper playoff run. And I think that's something to see for Carolina. Hey, it's a successful season, period. Why? Because you just proved to yourself that you went 4 quarters. It took 12 all the way down to 12 seconds, and you had the ball in your hands. And that wasn't that just, hey, Bryce Young didn't make that play. He did. Jimmy Ward should have caught that ball. Okay? Yeah. Period. He should have caught that ball, and they would have had more chances. But you know what? At the end of the day, football comes about a game of inches, especially playoff football. And that play just showed you, well, it wasn't the Panthers' day. Yeah. Now for the Rams coming into Chicago, and well, no, it'd be I don't even know. Yeah, would it be the Bears home game? No,
yes, sir.
Or no?
Yep.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, the Bears. So yeah, they're coming into Chicago, and that place is something magical right now. Yeah. Soldier Field is something magical to talk about. It doesn't matter what opponent's going into there. It's that second half that you have to get rid of for these Bears. But I don't want to transition there, Joe. That's what I feel. For Carolina, it's been a successful season for them. The Rams, to be determined.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, to flip, I don't mean to make this talking about the loser of this game. Let's give the Rams some love, right? Because this is a team that really stumbled into the playoffs. They lost a game against Atlanta. They lost a game against Seattle. They didn't look particularly great against Arizona week 18 playing their starters. It kind of took until the end of the game for them to wake up. But the talent is undeniable when you watch this team. I mean, Puka Nacua is a dominator. Devontae Adams is one of the best red zone threats in the league. And, Stafford is likely the MVP of the National Football League this year. And it was a tale of two halves where the Rams were really hot to start, and then Matthew Stafford hit his finger, and from that point on, he had a lot of trouble completing passes. They turned the ball over a couple times. Now he pulled it through, and Matthew Stafford, one of the toughest players ever to play the game of football, pulled it through. Amazing touchdown pass to Colby Parkinson on the right sideline. Parkinson made an unbelievable catch over the defender, kind of tiptoeing the sidelines to get in inside the pylon. But the Rams, they've been stumbling, and they stumbled a little more in a game that like Vegas and many other people thought they should have won handedly. So it's a confidence thing. Are you feeling great that you just got this win, or is that in the back of your mind like, yeah, we've been kind of stumbling down the stretch, and we got Devontae back, which was what a lot of people were saying the reason was for them stumbling, but Devontae was here for this game. He got popped, and it was still a close game against Carolina. So to be determined. Dude, that was not. Tell me that wasn't the hit of the year.
Literally had a go right. Yeah. And I think that's hilarious because the fact is like, yeah, they don't see that much those hard hits anymore. And I'm laughing because it's true. It's like from seeing him on a Taco Bell commercial to literally him seeing that right there. It's something that is very true. And I think the Rams, they have a lot of questions though. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of shaking in my boots for that because they've been bad for 4 weeks now.
Yeah.
They've been bad for a month.
Yeah.
And they're in the divisional round. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah. But anyway.
it's one of these things where we don't need to get too much into the matchups next week, and we'll talk Packers Bears in a second. But they play the Bears, who are the second half, the fourth quarter kings, and this is a game where a large part of that second half, the Rams were stumbling and couldn't get anything going on offense. The defense was committing a lot of penalties and getting thrown on a lot. Like the Rams pass rush is good, but on the back end, the secondary hasn't been tight this year. It hasn't been. It's been a lot of inconsistency, and you worry against a team like Chicago that every game except that Niners game, they haven't played a full four-quarter game the entire year. But if you're the Rams, you can't just start hot and then like kind of fade at the end of the game because Carolina isn't going to be able to make you pay like Chicago will be next week. And that's why the Rams got by, and Stafford, being the quarterback and the MVP that he is, was able to pull it out in the end, and the defense was able to get a stop in the end. But they've given up 31 points to the Panthers twice this year. They've given up 62 points to the Panthers in 2 matchups. And you're playing in the rest of the NFC, you've got the Bears, you've got the Niners, you've got Seattle. Not like the Bears are an elite offense. The Niners and Seattle stumbling a little bit, but definitely better offenses than Carolina, and your defense needs to be able to step up in these games. So we were talking about Bears. We were hinting at it a little bit. Let's jump into it. The third rendition of Packers Bears, and the first two were unbelievably exciting. This one somehow topped it. The Bears scoring 20-something points in the fourth quarter to end up winning the game. 31-27 at Soldier Field. This was a game that they were down 21-3 at half, and they pulled it out. The cardiac Bears, whatever you want to call them, they were in full effect, and it was.
No, that's exactly what they are.
It was an unbelievable win. Caleb Williams, the throw rolling to his left down the sidelines I think it was Odunze, was the best throw of his career, and he's had a lot of insane throws. I was very critical of Caleb Williams for a while, even this season, but he just, when the game matters most, he pulls these unbelievable plays out, and the Bears are moving on.
The Bears are moving on. That is the headline. They're moving on. This is a 100-year-old rivalry. Okay?
Yeah.
And cheese graters and all. And all these things that you see with Chicago. Ben Johnson, man. He is one gutsy son of a bee. He is. Yeah. The fact that he went on so many fourth downs, the fact that he trusts his team, he trusts his offense. Caleb Williams, the first half, was literally a heater of just emotions. Guy was pissed out of his mind. And look at, I love Caleb Williams. The biggest USC fan. I deserve to be critical to what it was and the idea of this, and I'm going to give him his flowers. Now, the first half of that, and I'm going to try to tangent it down real quick, it's just
You're
that
good.
Caleb Williams, they were not being able to click it all in all cylinders. They were missing a lot of throws until the second half of Colston Loveland. Colston Loveland is that MVP in that game. Colston
Absolutely.
Loveland was literally catching every single ball except for two thrown his way. The man was a monster, and it just shows you where hopefully they're able to keep their two tight ends, but Cole Kmet might be out of a job very, very soon in Chicago because Colston Loveland right there just showed you what he can do. Man was really one offense. I'm surprised that Jeff Halfley didn't even cover his guys, put double coverage after the fact that three catches were already going to Colston Loveland's way. And the fact that, who was it? I can't even remember calling the game. It was Al Michaels
Yep.
and Kirk. Yeah, it was Al
Yep.
Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit. And they were saying, at this point, just throw the ball to number 84 and he's going to catch the ball. The fact that they had to say that on the broadcast just shows you that they could not stop Colston Loveland. But besides that, I'm going to go to the second half of what I saw from Caleb Williams. Now, no order than fact, Jordan Love, he played great. Okay, maybe the second half they kind of got him erratic, but at first half that was a clinic by Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Okay, but the idea here is that no team, and I'm going to put a heart on this. This is going to a little Adam Rank-esque. Okay, no team can beat the Bears in the second half. I don't care who you are. This is 7 straight games, and Caleb Williams turns it on, goes absolutely berserk, becomes elite, and makes every throw he can make possible. The only other quarterback that can make those throws is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And Caleb Williams just showed you. Look at thumb mark, my blurry screen. Just shows you that Caleb Williams is a certified killer. And what he's going to bring against LA, well, I hope it's 4 quarters of great play. Because if he can do that, this Bears team can go to the Super Bowl. And they can do it the best way possible, but they have to play clean football. And Ben Johnson knows that. They can't keep doing this, wait till the second half, wait till this, wait till that. And nowhere in football, I don't care about these 18-point, 21-point deficits. That gets you mentally. But this team is tough as nails. So that's
Yeah.
my quick tangent, Joe. That's what I saw from that game. The Packers defense couldn't stop the Bears whatsoever in the second half whatsoever. He threw the ball everywhere, and he locked in. And Ben Johnson coached the hell out of his mind because they got the job done. And he was just a pure cold killer in that game sheet.
Yeah, it feels like every single Bears win this year has been the same formula, the same way. And I think anyone who watches football knows this is an unsustainable way of winning games. But they've done it so many times that it's like I'm not saying this is how they're going to win a Super Bowl. They're going to win 3 more games coming back in the fourth quarter because truth be told, the rest of the way you're going to play better teams. Green Bay, as good of a team as they are, and they were a division rival, right? They were a 9-win team. They had the second worst record in the playoffs this year, the 14 teams, right? It only gets harder from here. You're playing the Rams next week, and we're not going to make this a full Bears-Rams preview, but you're playing the Rams next week, and the Rams their offense won't go dead to the extent Green Bay's did, because let's be real, Carolina's defense is better than, Carolina's defense is at least as sneaky good. Chicago's defense really has not been good this year. They do one thing well, which is force turnovers, and, Matthew Stafford's a hard guy to turn the ball over unless you can get pass rush on him, which the Bears have a very mediocre to subpar pass rush. But, you talked about Caleb Williams, I've always been critical of him in his, it's just a lot of incomplete passes, it's a lot of inaccuracy, but you watch the dude, and it is unbelievable. The arm strength, it just pops off the screen. I think we've seen with Mahomes, we've seen with Herbert, with Josh Allen, we've seen some insane arms. I think it's safe to say Caleb Williams has the strongest arm in the NFL. And when he throws a deep ball, you get some quarterbacks throwing deep balls, and it's kind of those like arcing deep balls. With Caleb Williams, it's on a rope every time. And what makes it even more impressive is they're playing these cold weather games in Chicago, and he's still able to throw deep balls like this. Like, you have to have such a tremendously strong arm to be able to throw deep balls in cold, windy conditions. That's why Josh Allen's been so successful with Buffalo, and I think that's something with Caleb Williams is if you're going to be a cold weather team and you're going to air the ball out, you need to have a quarterback that has tremendous, tremendous arm strength because, and we'll talk about this game a little later, Jalen Hurts doesn't exactly have the strongest arm, and there were some balls that fluttered on him. Brock Purdy, there were some balls that fluttered on him in a very windy game in Philadelphia this weekend. Meanwhile, you watch Caleb Williams, and everything is just piercing through the wind. It is remarkable to watch just from a talent standpoint. He's only in year 2. Same can be said about Drake May, who's also playing in these playoffs. These are 2 quarterbacks who are in the divisional round who are in year 2. And obviously it's the NFL. There's no guarantee that these guys get back here again. You know, when Lamar won his MVP in his second season, everyone was like, he'll be back there. He'll win a Super Bowl eventually, and he hasn't won a Super Bowl eventually. So for all we know, this could be Caleb's best shot at a ring in his career. That's just the way the NFL works out.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
But this Bears team, they've found this magic. And sometimes these teams that just find this magic in December and January, they just do things. And I think what this Bears team reminds me of so tremendously is the Washington Commanders from last year, which was a team that took a lot of people a long time to take them seriously, and they kept winning these games in wild fashion. Remember the Commanders won on that Hail Mary against the Bears last year?
Yes.
But then the Commanders, everyone was like, this is unsustainable. They can't win games like this way. And then they went on. They knocked off the 1 seed in Detroit. They knocked off Tampa Bay in Tampa. And then they ended up losing to the Eagles in the championship round. I don't know if the Bears are a Super Bowl caliber team, but I think they've got this lightning in a bottle right now. And for all we know, this magic could continue for another 2-3 games in January into February.
And you know what? I might be crazy, but this is wild card weekend, so I can say whatever the heck I want to be crazy about.
Yeah,
because this is what I feel. Drake May and Caleb Williams could arguably be the new Peyton Manning and Tom Brady rivalry. And the idea is, I know they're different divisions, and I'm not saying they're rivals, but I'm saying this is their career paths where I'm not saying that Drake May is going to win consecutive Super Bowls, but I'm saying the magic that they bring. Okay, Drake May in the pocket and what he can do with the team, same. Caleb Williams is giving me the idea of how Peyton Manning was his first couple of years. This guy will be taking shots, right? But I'm not just saying comparison, but I'm saying the idea of how they can control their teams.
Yeah.
Now, the idea off of that, this might be the 2.0 more athletic type of people. Okay, they're very more athletic than both of those quarterbacks that I just mentioned. Okay,
Definitely.
Not saying that they're going to be having the same career, but they're going to be way more athletic. But they're also going to bring years of success. I think the Bears are going to have more playoff runs. I do, because the fact is that Ben Johnson and how he's doing this, he's arguably, just by that win alone, has bought himself 5 more years in Chicago.
Yeah.
Has bought him 5 more years in Chicago already. Yeah. Caleb Williams has bought himself 2 more years because he's the Bears quarterback, because he's the first Bears quarterback that's got him a playoff win in forever. Mitchell Trubisky couldn't do that, okay? Yeah. But Caleb Williams, even with his completion percentage that is dog water, he has still gotten here and won a playoff win. And if he can clean that up, he will be top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah,
easily.
I disagree with, I can't disagree with you here, because look, I think the NFL, for a team to really have like a future, you always need to have 2 things. You always need to have the head coach and the quarterback. Those are the 2 musts in the NFL. And I think Chicago right now, it's safe to say, stuff can change, but it's safe to say right now they have both. And what I really am thinking in the back of my head, and we're not going to make this a whole long-term discussion, but they drafted Colson Loveland over Tyler Warren. That was a very, very, especially early in the year when Colson Loveland, I dropped him in fantasy. I picked him up. I was thinking, this guy will break out at some point, and he didn't. He never broke out until it was like week 14, 15. But yeah. They took Colson Loveland over Tyler Warren, and everyone was like, what are you doing? And now we're seeing it. This dude isn't just a tight end. He's a borderline receiver, and he's what Sam Laporta was for Ben Johnson. He's what Sam Laporta did for Ben Johnson. Sam Laporta had a historic rookie year. It's is Colson Loveland going to be better than Sam Laporta ever was? And then in the second round, they took Luther Burden, who I had a massive draft crush on. I thought this guy should have been the first wide receiver off the board, not named Tedoroa and McMillan, and I guess Travis Hunter too. And he fell all the way to the second round, and we've seen it this year. Luther Burden is electric, especially when you get the ball in his hands. And it's scary to think right now that you've got Rome Odunze in year 2, Caleb Williams in year 2, Colson Loveland in year 1, Luther Burden in year 1, and we'll see about DJ Moore. DJ Moore might be a sneaky trade candidate this year, but even if you keep DJ Moore, it's they've got 4 year 1, year 2 players. And it's oh my goodness, is this Bears team going to be a problem for a lot of years coming? And, this win showed it.
And I believe they will.
And look, look, it's hard to not, because when you're a team, a new era with a new head coach, in the NFL, we're used to it taking some time, right? With Kyle Shanahan and the Niners, it took them 3 years to get the winning going, right? And for the Bears to be doing it in year one under Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams' sophomore year, it's pretty remarkable. And I've got a friend who's a Bears fan, and he's really, really annoying. But I don't blame him, because at this point, if I was a Bears fan and I've dealt with what I've dealt with over these last few years, and now you get this, and not just that you get this, but you get this and that positive outlook for the future, dude, scary times for the rest of the NFC, and especially the rest of the NFC North division, with Detroit, Green Bay, and Minnesota.
No, 100%. And that's something that needs to be emphasized more, because football divisions can be scary. Division winners can even be more scarier. Now, screw that. Division winners off of that. These playoff teams can be scary. And now when you start heating up in January, December, January, and now when you need it the most in February, well, that's what the Bears feel like to me. And people are looking at the wrong way. Niners fans were looking at me funny because we didn't know the seeding right away. And I know you're a Niners fan, but I think, like even say, that's a good transition, because San Francisco, this is what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Okay. San Francisco, I've said it once, I say it again, is the most well-coached team in the NFL, period.
Yeah.
You have had so many injuries. You had fifth, sixth rounders, don't correct me if I'm wrong, fifth, sixth rounders, maybe even seventh rounders on that field, and they've still found a way. And the idea off of this, you have no George Kittle, no Brandon Ayuk, no Fred Warner. I can go down the list.
Yeah.
Down the list. And Brock Purdy was hurt in the beginning of the season, but now it's come to the point. I know this is not the most talented team that San Francisco's had in a while, but they're the most grittiest, and they have the most heart, and they can play with anybody in the NFL. And that's for me, to be honest and respect as a football lover, I will say that. And the fact is, even though I had Philly against them, not only did they show me that they can be a good team, now when they go play Seattle, Sam Darnold better be on his A game, because the Niners want to rip him a new one. Not only because of the embarrassment, what they felt, now they even have more of a chip on their shoulder. And now Kyle Shanahan can do what he can do with Robert Saleh, both of those two. If there was a Coach of the Year award and a two-time category, this is why I say a Defensive Coordinator of the Year. This is why, and I'm petitioning it here on public, why we need to have Offensive Coordinator of the Year and Defensive Coordinator of the Year. Because that right there, not because they're the best defense, but they're the most grittiest. What they have, they've got themselves to divisional round. They've got themselves through a lot, and now they're going to play, and they're going to start playing for George Kittle. Through that injury, they're going to have something to play for even more.
Yeah.
And that just shows you why the Niners could do something big. The biggest stories in the NFC are the Bears and the San Francisco 49ers, period. And these two teams might meet each other in the NFC Championship game.
They very well could. And, we saw that in Week 17, how unbelievable that game was. Very little defense was played in that game, but it was probably, in my opinion, the game of the year. I mean, let's talk Niners-Eagles now. 23-19, the Niners get the win. Go to Philly, walked into Philly, a team that they've had history with. Before the game, there was another pregame scuffle because the Niners can't play in Philadelphia without there being some pregame fight. Usually it's always the same culprits. It's always A.J. Brown and Jawan Jennings and Lenore and all these different, and all the same culprits who have been a part of this kind of mini rivalry over the past couple of years, ever since Brock Purdy shattered his elbow in the NFC Championship. And, 2 years ago, the Niners walked into Philly during the middle of the 2023 season against a 10-1 Eagles team and beat them up and embarrassed them. And, a lot of people were thinking, was that the revenge for the NFC Championship when Purdy shattered his elbow and the Niners never really got a fair shot at the Eagles? Well, if that wasn't revenge, this sure as hell was, because this was a playoff game in Philly. This was an undermanned 49er team. You lose George Kittle to a torn Achilles, which is just devastating. One of the best dudes in the NFL, an all-pro tight end, probably a future Hall of Famer. And for him to lose it, and then the next play after he goes out, it's a long completion to Juwan Jennings. And it's like this team doesn't even blink. And obviously, it's a big deal losing a guy like George Kittle. And it's been a big deal losing
Yeah,
guys
of
like
course.
Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Ricky Pearsall, Brock Purdy. The list goes on. The only Niner that stayed healthy the entire year is Christian McCaffrey. And
Which is insane.
which is wild because
Is that insane alone?
he's the one who's
Yeah.
had the injury troubles. Like that's what makes it so wild is the one guy. It's like he's been channeling all this voodoo. You know the Niners injury bug is bad. If people are coming up with conspiracy theories about a power plant next to the facility and that's the reason they're rupturing tendons and stuff, it's like what? Look, I'm a Niner fan. I'm just as shocked as every other Niner fan, as every other NFL fan. But like, come on, guys, like we're grasping for straws now. Anyways, that's besides the point. What they did, they walked into Philly. It was incredible. Maybe down the road we can incorporate a film segment because there was two just Kyle Shanahan masterpieces on the two touchdowns. The first one on the opening drive to Demarcus Robinson. You fake a jet sweep left, you fake a pitch toss right that gets Quinyon Mitchell, an all-pro DB, just completely frozen, flat-footed, and then you're able to throw the short post, the slant right behind him. And then late in the game winner to Christian McCaffrey to run an angle route, a Texas route from like the opposite direction of where you're lined up is like only something like someone like Kyle Shanahan does. And now other coordinators will do the same thing now that we've seen it. But it was something that we've really never seen in the NFL from a play calling standpoint. And Kyle Shanahan did it and pulled it off beautifully. Of course, it took Brock Purdy stepping up in the pocket, making a good throw. I want to talk a little bit Brock Purdy here because Brock Purdy has been a wild talking point of NFL fans really ever since he like took over the 49ers job when Jimmy G got hurt in 2022. And, you know, for a lot of people, it's hard to think of this guy as like a top 10 quarterback in the league just because he was drafted the last pick of the draft. And, you know, that sticks in people's minds. Sometimes we hold on to first rounders too long, and those late rounders, we don't give them enough credit soon enough. And with Brock Purdy, this is a wild stat. The number one quarterback in the NFL with playoff game-winning drives is Patrick Mahomes with 7. Number 2 is a tie between Brock Purdy and Matthew Stafford at 4. Brock Purdy's been starting for 3 years, and he's already got the second most playoff game-winning drives. 4 of his 5 playoff wins have been game-winning drives. And his 2 playoff losses, one of which his elbow got shattered in Philadelphia, the other of which he took the lead in overtime and gave the ball back to the other team and gave the ball back to his defense to try and win the game. So this guy, Brock Purdy, you know, it gets ugly, right? He threw 2 bad picks, especially the first one, but he's a gunslinger, and he's got this, like, he throws picks, and then he comes back out, and he shows no fear. And I think in young quarterbacks, Brock Purdy's only in year 4, year 5. When in young quarterbacks, a lot of the time we see them throw picks and they get antsy. They get like we see this with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, part of the reason people can't buy into Seattle is Sam Darnold turns the ball over and then it's like he's antsy the rest of the game. Brock Purdy does not. He that Christmas game 2 years ago against Baltimore, he threw 4 picks in that game. The reason he threw 4 picks was because he continued to not show fear. And he was like, fine, I'm throwing picks, whatever. I'm going to keep firing in there. And he's a gunslinger, and sometimes it costs him, but you'd much rather have a player like that than a player who throws a pick and is shaky the rest of the game. It was unbelievable for him to throw 2 picks and to come lead a game-winning drive. And, you know, this Niners team isn't here without the Kyle Shanahan and Saleh, like you mentioned. They're not here if Brock Purdy doesn't come down the stretch and play healthy, great football. It's been as a 49er fan, it's just been like, I know this isn't a Super Bowl caliber team, but it's just been so fun to watch this team of a bunch of young guys just find a way each and every game.
I'm going to stop you right there. Why isn't it a Super Bowl caliber team? I don't think so. Look at the idea. It might not feel like a Super Bowl roster, but that doesn't mean anything. Look at Brock Purdy is the modern day Brett Favre. More athletic. And I think the idea about him is, and hey, Brett Favre has 2 Super Bowls. If he goes on the same trail, and I think you would love that. Hey, but the good old 49ers could get at least 2, maybe even 1. And the idea off of this, Brock Purdy, he's earned my respect off of what he's done. Mr. Irrelevant, let's talk about last rounder. There's been a lot of great quarterbacks that have been undrafted. Okay. And the best one, who was one of the last picks, Tom Brady.
Yeah, of course.
Last pick, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. And he wasn't even the last pick, 7th round, whatever. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But the idea off of that, it doesn't matter what round you are. It's the fact what you can rise to the occasion. And what Brock Purdy has done, he's rose to his occasion. He has mastered his offense. He has mastered his offense already now.
For sure.
The idea for what he can do with his team, with a team that been a lot of full of backups. Okay, Demarcus Robinson wasn't a
Yeah,
starter. Okay, he was fighting for his spot. Tongus, this guy is an insane. Look it,
yeah,
and your best weapon a year ago had Achilles tendonitis. Achilles, a tendonitis,
yeah.
and both of his Achilles. And the fact that he's on that field, that he almost had 1,000 receiving yards, and he also had 1,200 rushing yards. This man is insane. This team should not be taken lightly. They are going to go into Lumen Field. They are going to make a statement. I don't know what the score is. I don't know how it's going to get done. That game wins by 3 between both those teams. Now, the worst this game can come out of control is one team might just obliterate the other team by 14. I know that doesn't mean a lot,
Yeah.
but that means something because the idea that game was separated by 10 points. Now, roll it on over to this. They are going to Seattle's home. I don't care about the 12th man or anything. When you have a first round bye, it does bite you. It bites you hard of rust. If Sam Darnold comes in rusty into that game, it will be a living nightmare that he will not forget. He already has one last year. He might build another one this year. And I'm never going to talk about Sammy. I love him. Love what he done for USC. But all I can say is if there's any quarterback that has the most pressure in the NFL right now, there's two. Josh Allen
Not forget, he already has one
and
last
Sam
year.
Darnold.
My
Hey,
fault.
there
My
you go.
fault.
You're
My
good.
fault. My fault.
You're
My
good.
fault.
You're good. You're good.
Technical
It's okay.
difficulties.
Hey,
We're figuring this out, people.
it's okay. Sam
Go ahead.
Darnold, though.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold has the most pressure on him. Why? He's trying to prove that he's a franchise quarterback. Brock Purdy already did, and that game alone right now.
Yeah.
He gets back to the Super Bowl. If he can find that way, that's also a big pressure setter in tone it. Find the way with Kyle Shanahan to win one. Again, that's all I feel about it. And I know it's a long tangent, but it's big to
Yeah.
understand off the dark horse of what the Niners can do, Joe. And I think you know them better than anyone because you're a fan, you're a livid fan. And what I've seen, I've tried to done my research and do my research between these two teams because I absolutely hate these teams. But I respect the hell out of their game. And I respect that the fact that the Niners, what they did to the Eagles, I got to give them a hand
Yeah.
because I hate Philly. I hate them with a passion. And the idea off of this, the 49ers did what they needed to do. And the Seahawks better get it rolling because right now, even that's not the prettiest win that the Niners had. They are coming for a vengeance and they hate the Seahawks. They really do.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, Niners, Seattle. You know, the Niners. I think it's just because Niner fans can get very annoying, and Niner players have had some like very brash personalities over the years. The Niners have a lot of rivals, but the one consistent throughout my lifetime has always been Seattle. The Niners and Rams rivalry gets heated some years, and other years it's whatever. Niners Cowboys, Niners Eagles, even the Raiders when the Raiders were in the Bay Area. But Niners Seattle has been a staple, and you know, there's a lot to be seen with this game. Will Trent Williams be out there again? Will Ricky Pearsall be back? But you know, Brock Purdy is undefeated in Seattle in his very young career. He beat Seattle in the playoffs a couple of years ago in the wild card round. You know, it is a Saturday game, which doesn't exactly favor the Niners at all because they're going to be traveling from the East Coast, and now they got to travel up north to Seattle
Yep.
on a short week. And then the other dynamic in this is, you know, Seattle had a bye. So they're going from playing the Niners to playing the Niners. They haven't played a team in between these two games, right? And that's a very difficult challenge. Whereas coming into that Week 18 game, the Niners and Seahawks played each other to start the year, Week 1, all the way back in early September. So there was 16 weeks worth of football in between those two games. In that game, Week 1, it took a Nick Bosa strip sack to win the game, right? Nick Bosa's definitely not there anymore. But it's a unique challenge for a team to try and beat a team 2 times in a row, not just 2 times in a like short period of weeks, but literally your two games are 49ers. It's going to be weird for Seattle, whereas the Niners, you know, they're coming in, and I'll answer this, and then I want to talk a little bit Philly because there's a lot to talk about from Philly's point of view. You kind of gave me a look when I said I don't think the Niners are a Super Bowl team. I'm yes or no on that. The reason I kind of doubt it is because regardless of how magical some of these wins are and they just find a way, at some point in the NFL, the wheels do come off, right? When you have so many injuries and you're relying on so many guys with very little playoff experience, down the stretch, sometimes the wheels do come off. I think about the 49ers season in 2021. They went into Dallas, they won. They went into Lambeau, they knocked off the 1 seed Packers. And then the Rams game, they were looking good. And just at the end of the game, you could tell just from playing 3 weeks in a row on the road, the wheels just came off. A lot of inexperience on that field. And that's the same can be said about this 49ers team. But on the contrary, to contradict what I'm saying, is the Super Bowl is at Levi's, which is a huge motivation for a team, to have a Super Bowl home game. Fred Warner, if you win this week, Fred Warner's probably back for the NFC Championship, whether that's in Chicago or LA. If you can get past Seattle, your leader and the best linebacker in the National Football League is probably back. So it's a mix where it's like, yeah, maybe if the wheels are about to fall off in the NFC Championship, if they're able to get that far, your leader comes back and that gives you enough juice to get into that Super Bowl week and give yourself a chance to win it. And you don't have to play the Chiefs, which has been the team that's stopped you from winning it twice. But Niners aside, let's talk Philly, because they had no reason to lose this game, right? They did. From a talent standpoint, they smoked the Niners. You have the home field advantage. You were well rested. You didn't play your starters the week before. And the game, it started out okay. Saquon was really chunking the Niners, but like most Philadelphia games this year, it just feels like the offense loses traction in the second half. They scored 6 points in the second half. They went 4 straight drives going 3 and out. And then at the end of the game, it was some questionable play calls, a miss. Jalen Hurts thrown it into triple coverage at the end of the game. Now there's going to be some serious discussions. Nick Sirianni won a Super Bowl last year, but Philadelphia fans themselves are calling for his job. The offensive coordinator has been hotly debated upon this year because the offense has not been anywhere close to where it was last year, even though it's got very similar personnel. Philly, they could be in for a interesting offseason in one of the most rabid markets in the league.
Philadelphia has a lot of problems. Can I just say that?
Amen.
Because they have a lot of problems. They left their garbage all on that field. They left their garbage to let. The only thing that was fixed, I don't even know if it was fixed, and I didn't even care about the stats after because I already knew this game. I was watching it at work too, like the second half of the game. I know what I saw. Yeah. Saquon Barkley was the only thing fixed in that game. Okay. And not all the way, because I don't know what his stats were at the end. You could tell me, because I was multitasking towards the second half. But I saw the major points of what you were saying about Christian McCaffrey, about all these routes that they did. But Saquon Barkley looked good in the first half. He looked like he could run the ball. He could do what he's wanted. But Jalen Hurts.
No, I know. I'm with you.
He has no offensive coordinator. And man, they have to figure out how he can throw the ball to something. A.J. Brown doesn't look like he wants to be there. Nick Sirianni doesn't even want him there. And I feel bad for Devontae Smith. I don't even know how many catches he had. They didn't even give him maybe look his way that much, I think, personally. Did he have a good game? Because we didn't hear about him.
Every time they targeted him, for the most part, the Niners had him covered. They did, honestly, I want to give the Niners corners some praise. They did a good job on A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, just being physical with them, not letting them get to the ball. But neither of them had a good game, and it felt like after that little Sirianni, A.J. Brown altercation, it felt like the energy of that game in that stadium really changed from that point on. A.J. Brown dropped an easy chunk gain on that final drive of the game. Devontae Smith, that was the third down play, and it was, triple covered, or it was Hurts, it sailed on him a little bit. It just like they started good. They were gashing with Saquon, and then it felt like when the Niners started to answer Saquon a little bit because of A.J. Brown being distracted, fighting his own head coach, by the way. Like, that should tell you something about the head coach. Regardless of if a player is acting out or not, you don't, get in his face like that on the sidelines. It really, from that point on, the game just felt different. Like, as a Niner fan, after the Kittle Achilles injury, I was like, dude, this is not looking good. And it felt like after that, just Philly, it didn't feel like they were in the game. It didn't feel like mentally they were in the game. The defense was, but offensively, absolutely not.
No, not at all. And I'm sorry, but that was the Super Bowl defending champions.
Crazy, huh?
Hey, that's all I want to say. Crazy. And I'm going to period off of that because they have a lot. They have a lot to do, and they better figure it out. No, I don't want them to figure it out. What am I saying? That's a division rival. They need to be the last place, but they need a lot to figure it out. And a lot of the Eagles fans believe the same thing. That OC needs to go, and they need to figure it out. They lost all the explosiveness out of that team.
For sure.
It's literally gone. What do you
sure.
have left? A tush push? And that tush push didn't even look legit. So
Yeah.
I think, and then Lane Johnson, all these factors. But at the end of the day, look at the Niners got it done with not even most of their starters that they had in week one.
Yeah.
So if that team can get it done like that, then a Super Bowl defending team should be able to do that. And they didn't. And that's not credit to Jalen Hurts. I'm not going to give all the blame on him. It's credit to a lot of that whole organization. They took a plummeting downfall. You talk about a ship, it's riding high, it's doing great, it's steering great, it looks like the sails are gone. Once it starts singing, once there starts cracks, it starts to float under. And that's exactly what Philly started to do each week, until it got blasted
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
a sea of red.
Yeah, it was. And, it's going to be a discussion this offseason, not just amongst Philly fans. Is it Nick Sirianni? Is it the OC? Is it Jalen Hurts? Because I think all three have serious question marks around them, the head coach, the OC, and the quarterback, which is crazy to think about considering all three were with the team when they won a Super Bowl not even 365 days ago from this podcast being recorded. And Petula obviously wasn't the OC, it was Kellen Moore, and Kellen Moore had the Saints playing really good for considering their roster and their circumstances this year. Nick Sirianni, you're an offensive coach, dude. You got hired as the offensive coordinator from the Indianapolis Colts. And now you're here, and it feels like you have no imprints on the offense, right? You're not willing to call plays. It feels like every year your offense is what the offensive coordinator wants it to be, not what you want it to be. And Jalen Hurts just doesn't throw to the middle of the field very well, and he doesn't use his legs anymore. And that was such a weapon for him early on, especially last year when they won the Super Bowl. And in this game, he ran the ball a couple times. And that's partially because the OC is not calling design runs, and that's partially because he's just unwilling to get out and run. So a lot of question marks with this Philly team. At the end of the day, there will be a new Super Bowl champion this NFL season, which is great. We don't have Kansas City and we don't have Philadelphia winning a Super Bowl, so fine by me. We've talked NFC side of things. So Niners Seahawks will be Saturday night on Fox. Bears Rams will be on NBC Sunday night. Both of them really intriguing matchups for different circumstances. I think Bears Rams is going to be awesome. But let's talk the other side of the bracket, and let's start with Sunday morning. The Buffalo Bills walked into Jacksonville, a team that me and you, when we did a pod a week ago today, both picked to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we did.
I pivoted on my Friday podcast to Houston. I'm glad I did. The Jaguars lose 27-24 in a really good back-and-forth game to the Buffalo Bills. And, we've talked about this being potentially the year for Josh Allen. No Mahomes, no Lamar, no Burrow. And Josh Allen got it done. And now he gets a date in Denver with the 1-seed Broncos, who have a lot of question marks around him. And, let's focus on this game. Josh Allen was getting beat up the entire game. And then on that game-winning drive, he just unbelievable throw off the back foot to Brandon Cooks. They go in, score the touchdown, and then the defense gets a pick to seal things. And the Bills are moving on.
Hey, the Bills are moving on. Bills Mafia better be ripping it up because you know what? The idea off of this, the Bills are so lucky to have one Joshua Allen. To have one Joshua Allen. The fact that this team has this quarterback is the only reason why they are even moving on. Josh Allen orchestrates that offense like no other. Yes, I'm pausing because I am literally in awe about what he has done. He has been my favorite quarterback. I know I was on a big Baker Mayfield in the beginning of the year, but he has been my favorite quarterback that I've seen these past couple of years because this man really loves his team and he really loves to play football. And the idea of this, it doesn't matter who he's throwing to. Heck, a lot of his receivers went down this game, and he had Khalil Shakir, 2 tight ends, and a James Cook, and himself. And the idea off this, Josh Allen has really shown what the Bills are capable of. And I gotta give a lot of credit to the defense because they did really put pressure on Trevor Lawrence towards the second half of the game. And you started to see the Jaguars fizzle out. But the difference here is that the Bills are really they're competitive. They got this drive and grittiness to them. And what I saw from there is that Sean McDermott said, you know what? What more can I coach Josh Allen? What more can I coach him? He is literally like a player coach. He is literally understand the game of football to the highest capability that he is. And that's what's the difference about him, Joe. And I think
Yeah.
that's why I think they're going to go to the Super Bowl this year. Yes, it's not Mahomes, it's not this. This is the reason why Josh Allen needs to go, because he has a pressure off of him to say, yeah, these guys that have beaten me, barely because they've had the ball in their hands or because of last minute plays, this is my year to show that, yes, I have to be the king. I have to be the one to overcome it all and get there. And yeah, I think he will. I think he will, because the fact is, put him at a lower seed, put him at all these obstacles. It only makes them stronger. It only makes them more gritty, more hungry. And the fact what he said in the post game meeting in the locker room, Josh Allen said, hey, we've gotten a gift to play one more game, one more game.
Yeah.
That's a mentality you need to have, to say that it is a gift to play one more game. Now it's a big test. You have one of the top 3 defenses in the NFL with Patrick Surtain, with yada yada. Who cares? I'm only going to say Patrick Surtain because I know Patrick Surtain,
Yeah.
and it's getting, it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm not going to be like, oh, I know. But what I'm basically saying is, we know that.
Yeah.
The only thing that the Broncos got for them, I believe, is the defense and RJ Harvey and Bo Nix when he wants to be, but it depends if he's not throwing a screen pass. Okay. But the idea off of this is the Bills. I don't want to get off that tangent. They look stronger than people thought. Okay? They look stronger than
I
people
agree.
thought. If Josh Allen is healthy, he got banged up, better get him his ice, better Haley Steinfeld and him better have a little weekend just to prep and just let him relax,
Yeah.
because that man took a beating.
Yes, he
And
did.
the only other person that got a beating than him, there's 2. Aaron Rodgers, Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Got beating, okay? They
Yeah.
got beatings. And Josh Allen, if he stays healthy, you better trip and book a trip to Santa Clara.
He
Just
he
saying.
is he is one of the most durable athletes we've ever seen in the NFL. I mean, he continued. He hasn't. I don't think he's not started a game. Like, that's 2 straight years in a row that they have him just take a knee on the first snap of the game and then come out in their Week 18 games, just because he's got such a long streak of starting games. He's very durable, and it's become, we're beating a dead horse when we talk about, yeah, there's no Mahomes, no Burrow, no Lamar, and all this stuff. I look at the path for Josh Allen and the Bills right now. Denver this week. Denver, just preliminary analysis, injury reports. It sounds like no Gabe Davis for that game, but we'll know more later in the week. Josh Allen, they're playing a team with Patrick Surtain, who usually takes out your team's number 1 wide receiver. The Bills don't really have a number 1 wide receiver. They spread the rock out a lot, which is something that this Denver defense has struggled with, because a lot of times their formula is Surtain takes out your best weapon and the rest of the defense beats you up. It makes it a little bit of a unique challenge when you're playing an offense that spreads the ball out so much, that runs the ball so successfully. And on the inverse, we saw it in this game. The Bills' run defense is horrifically bad. Like, the Bills' run defense is not good at all. Denver, since J.K. Dobbins went down, has really struggled to run the ball. They have not ran the ball as effectively as they did early in the year, and it's been a lot of putting the ball in Bo Nix's hands. And some games that's looked good, and some games with Bo Nix it hasn't looked good. And this is a Buffalo pass defense. As bad as the run defense is, the pass defense is very, very good. And then if you get past Denver, there's a good chance you're playing New England, which is a team that you beat down the stretch in New England late in the year. Like, the path is there. We can see the path for the Bills to get there. What they did in this game is remarkable, because I think this is hypothetical, the NFL, we don't know. But if they end up making the Super Bowl and they play the Jaguars, the Broncos, the Patriots, I think this game that they just won on Sunday was the toughest matchup of the 3, was the toughest team that they played, because Jacksonville went toe for toe with Buffalo this entire game. Josh Allen had like 5 or 6 new injuries this game because Jacksonville was getting after him and hitting him. They were hitting him. And Josh Allen was on the sidelines, and it just looked like, dude, like, all this guy wants is like a beer right now, because he's getting beat up so badly. But they pulled it out. And that's what the legends of the sport do, and that's what the great ones do, is in ugly games where you're getting beat up against really quality football teams, you find a way. And they found a way. And Jacksonville, what a season for them. It sucks that it ends this way, in the way that it did against the 6 seed, but they were a really good team on defense and on offense. And, I talked about it earlier. saying they'll be back is I don't believe in that because the NFL stuff changes so much year to year that for all we know, Trevor Lawrence tears his ACL week 2 next year, and the Jacksonville Jaguars can't return to this form. But the future is very bright for them. This was year 1 of the Liam Cohen era, and with how open it is, you'd think maybe this is their best shot at a ring in the future. But Buffalo were the ones who got it done, and Josh Allen clearly knows that the path is there for Buffalo. For him to go play a Super Bowl in the stadium of the team that he grew up rooting for, the team that he grew up going to games at Candlestick Park, now they're at Levi Stadium. The path is there for Buffalo, and for Jacksonville, you'd imagine they'll be back next year, but we'll see. And that was the good AFC game. We can talk briefly about the other two. Let's talk a little Sunday Night Football, Chargers Patriots, and you want to talk about a quarterback getting beat up. Josh Allen got beat up. Justin Herbert was just getting violated this entire game. I was watching this game and I didn't even want to think about the ice bath Justin Herbert was taking after the game. I mean, dude, 16-3, the Patriots get it done. Relatively low-scoring game. The Patriots defense just beat up Justin Herbert. The Chargers have had one of the worst O-lines in the league this year. It showed in this one, and their receivers could not separate at all against these Patriots defensive backs, and it really showed. The Patriots, it wasn't a smooth game on offense, but Ramondre Stevenson had a good game. Drake May was efficient, and they got the job done against a very quality Chargers team.
Let me tell you something. If you can't run the ball, then you can't pass the ball. 87 yards rushing isn't going to do you any good. Isn't going to do you any good in the NFL. And especially at SoFi Stadium and your home field. Yeah, see? Yeah. That's exactly what I mean. When you got the lights like that, that's exactly what I mean. That's what the Chargers do. They make stuff broken. I am sorry. I know their whole line's broken. I know there's a lot of issues. But man, you have to play to your occasion. I'm using the 49ers as an example. I don't care who you have on your team. The NFL is what? The National Football League, made of professional football players. You have to show up. You have to play. I understand it's New England. I understand what they bring. But what I'm saying, and I'm being dumb, okay? It was in Foxborough. It was in New England. And that's cold weather. It's all this yada yada whatever. When you play a team that against Mike Vrabel, you have to be on your A game. Number one.
For sure.
1 for 10 in third down conversions. 1 for 3 in fourth down. Yards per play, 3.5 yards per play. That's not going to win you football games.
No,
and you know what? What does that almost match? Your score, 3 points. Yes, I'm sorry, Justin Herbert. I'm sorry, man. You got sacked 6 times. Yes, you took a beating. You know what? You didn't throw any touchdowns. But you didn't throw any interceptions. Okay. You played with a broken hand. I give you grace. Who did you have who did not show up for you? Ladd McConkey, play better, man. 32 yards. Play better, man. Keenan Allen, you're a vet. Probably time to hang up, man. Trey Harris, Keenan Vidal,
rookie.
Quentin Johnson, who has been forgotten. I mean, guys, what more can I say? Now, who's going to take the beating? Amarion Hampton. Are you the starting running back or are you not?
I will say, in Hampton's defense, he was like a big question mark coming into this one, ankle injury. They tried it, and it did not work. And I do think Kamani Vidal is a serviceable back. In a game like this, cold weather, you need your alpha back, which I think Hampton is for the Chargers. And them not having him at full strength, if it was to the point where he had 2 snaps and they said, we can't run you anymore, it's just we're better off without an injured version of you on the field. that really hurt them. But also, you said it best.
Yep.
Lad McConkey, you were a second-round pick last year. You broke out as a rookie. Keenan Allen is on the older side. He's playing outside. You've got Quentin Johnson. He's playing outside, right? And the Patriots have two really good outside corners, Carlton Davis, Christian Gonzalez. You're the slot guy. You're the guy who should have the matchup. Marcus Jones is a good slot corner. Lad McConkey, if you're that guy who we thought you were coming into the year, you got to do it. And I don't know if he was getting open, if it was just because Herbert was getting harassed. I haven't watched the all 22 tape or anything, but what I will say is, this was a game for Lad McConkey. You're the separator of this offense, and Herbert was getting harassed the entire game, and the receivers could not separate down the field. I'm a Justin Herbert believer, so I'm always going to be biased towards the dude. But he's 0-3 in the playoffs. Last year was clearly on him. This one, I watched this game, and I'm just like, he is playing with one hand out there. His O-line isn't blocking. Yep. His receivers aren't separating, and his running backs aren't getting yards. That's how you end up scoring 3 points in a playoff game. That is the recipe right there.
Exactly, and it's not his fault. Okay, you always told me, why are you backlashing him? I'm not going to. Not this game. I can't. A quarterback is only good as his O-line, and then if he can make shift and be excellent and elite is when he can take that step up. Okay? Sure. What the idea here, now, people are going to think I'm so crazy, and whoever's watching tonight, well, this is what I'm going to say about New England. I do got Buffalo.
Yeah.
And I do even got the Texans maybe even over you. Why? That's crazy to think. Hang on. Potentially. Exactly. You know why? You let the Chargers. This is the biggest stat line in this game. Okay. So Justin Herbert got sacked. How many? 6, right?
Yeah, which is low.
How many did Drake make? Exactly. But how many did Drake make it? 5.
Yeah.
5 sacks.
Yeah.
Okay. And the idea is they only scored 16. Are the Chargers the 7th seed?
They are.
Are they the 7th seed this year?
Were
they or no?
They're the 7th seed. Yeah, you're right.
Okay,
yeah.
They're the 7th seed. Okay, so the Texans, and I know the Pittsburgh's way off, way different offense, way this and that. They have the better defensive line, probably the best defensive line in football, and they have a great secondary. They might eat up Drake May. That's crazy to say. I like Drake May. I think he's doing great. He's playing phenomenal. But again, he also threw a pick. Mike Vrabel's great.
Yeah.
But in these stats, in this overview, you had 235 rushing yards, 146, cool. But you got sacked 5 times. And if that D-line that we saw tonight, and some they scored, that defense is hungry.
Yeah, dude.
They might take New England for their money. And they might go, because it's going to be, is it another New England home game?
Yep.
I don't know. If they survive some cold weather in Pittsburgh, and if CJ Stroud can play competent football like he can not really play tonight.
He did not tonight.
Not tonight. Exactly. I said not tonight, but if he can, then this game might be one game that can be something else. But I'm going to say that defense, both those defenses, be a better prepared. And that's what I want to say, period, off New England. If you want to add, go ahead, because I like Mike Vrabel. Think he's great. Think he loves his players. He's a great, phenomenal coach. But off what I saw, that O-line better protect Drake May with their life, because you can't allow 5 sacks. Not in the playoffs. No. Sorry, 3 at most. At most 3.
Well, I do want to say, to give the Chargers some credit before I talk New England, right? Their defense has been a very good unit this year. They were the best road defense in the league in the NFL this year. And Jesse Minter, their defensive coordinator, is going to be a very, very sought-after head coaching candidate. Very similar. Mike McDonald was Jim Harbaugh's DC, and then he got hired to Seattle, and we're seeing how that's taking off. Jesse Minter is thought of in that same regard that Mike McDonald was when he got hired in the coaching cycle 2 off seasons ago. But this Patriots team, the protection has been an issue of Drake May this year. He's been sacked many, many times. This isn't just this game, right? The Chargers do have a really good front, a really good defense, but the O-line has been an issue this year. And Houston, we'll talk Houston in a second. We'll talk Houston-Pittsburgh in a second. But Houston does have a D-line that's capable of taking over a game. But what New England did in this game, even though the Chargers defense played very well, New England's defense played flawless. I mean, after the game, there were Charger offensive players going to New England defensive players going, we had no clue what you guys were doing out there. Like, the way Mike Vrabel was disguising coverages, sending different fronts, sending different simulated looks was incredible. And it had, Justin Herbert, this game wasn't on him, but he was confused the entire game. The way that the Patriots were walking guys up to the line, sending certain guys, dropping certain guys back in coverage was really remarkable. And Vrabel is clearly a high-level coach. Clearly, he's even in Tennessee, he's always coaches really, really, really good defenses. The offense, for having an MVP candidate and for having a very good run game is the issue. Can you protect Drake May? We'll see going into next week, but it was a very quality win for New England in which they made some mistakes, but the defense pitched a shutout. Frankly, they pitched a shutout. The Chargers could not do anything against them. The Chargers' one field goal, the one score on the game the Chargers had, was because the Patriots turned it over in New England territory, and the Chargers were already benefited with a short field. But let's talk some Texans Steelers because we were just mentioning the Texans to wrap things up. The Texans, this was a close game the entire way, and then you blink, and then all of a sudden 30-6 is the final score. The Texans knock off the Steelers. It was a very close game. For most of the game, it was 7-6, and then in that fourth quarter, it felt like the Texans defense, which was playing good the entire game, it felt like they blew the game open. Strip sack on Rodgers, touchdown. There was another pick six on Rodgers late in the game. His final maybe pass as an NFL player was a pick six to Kamari Lassiter down the left sideline. And, it was ugly. C.J. Stroud turned the ball over 3 times. It was ugly. Nico Collins got hurt. You'd imagine Nico Collins won't be back for that New England game this week, so who are the Texans going to throw to? But the run game was working. Woody Marks had over 100 yards. I know he's a USC guy, so I know you like Woody Marks, and the defense just did what it has the entire year. And I've said this over and over and over on this podcast. In my years of watching football, I've been watching football since I was 5-6 years old, dude. This is the best defense I can recall watching, maybe since Legion of Boom. Like, this defense is unbelievable, and specifically this front four. And
you're serious? I'm serious. Okay, yeah, okay.
I'm serious, and I've mentioned the same thing. I've mentioned the same exact thing to you multiple times. Is they don't disguise coverages and they don't blitz you. They just sit back, play man, play zone to zone. It's just because they know. It's not that they believe. No, they know that the 11 players they're putting out on their defense are better than the 11 players that their opposing team's offense is putting out on the field. So the Texans the defense is elite, and that's part of the reason I pivoted to them being my Super Bowl pick in the AFC, because the last time the Super Bowl was at Levi Stadium 10 years ago, like it is this year, it was the Broncos with not good Peyton Manning that year, and it was an elite defense carrying them all the way to the Super Bowl. And I think this Texans defense is better than Denver's, is better than Seattle's, and I think they're capable of carrying C.J. Stroud, who has looked very hot and cold and very mediocre this year, to the Super Bowl.
And that's what I'm saying. You answered that right there. C.J. Stroud, all he has to do is be a game manager.
For sure.
Don't step out of that. Be a game manager. If he does that, they can easily be in the Super Bowl. 100%. This defense will carry a lot of the weight. They want it, they feel it, they are it, and they can do that. They can do it with anybody, and that's why we got to see which offense is going to come out on top. Can Buffalo be more explosive in the AFC? Can New England find a way? Everyone should circle the Texans. They should be watching the film. They should even be ready for, yes, they're this week, prepare, but they should have in the back of their mind, what the hell are the Texans doing? I better watch that game. I better see what they're doing, because, again, their tendencies, they change. They change. They're not the same. Each game they've shown, okay, it might be this. The next week might be completely different, like you said. And that's what D'Amico Ryans, this man is just insane. That whole staff, they believe it. They are it in this culture. Now, one thing I like about Woody Marks is that he finally said, I'm sorry. I like you, Nick Chubb. Think you're great, man. You're old. But this is my backfield.
Oh, yeah.
This is my backfield.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact is, it's like one of the higher carries for him. Again, the Steelers defense can be what they are and what they're not.
For sure.
But he smacked him in the mouth. And with this run game, if it can continue, it will solve a lot of questions and help C.J. Stroud in the long run. Now, what I want to talk about, which I think is even crazy watching this game, Christian Kirk. Are you real? Is this going to at least be maybe some 70 yards next or consecutively, consistently? Not 100. I know that's not going to happen again.
Yeah.
But if you can give a complimentary football and allow Nico Collins, because I know he got a little banged up, and allowed it to spread this ball. If that happens, again, man, I mean, these playoffs are starting to look crazy, and if that can happen, that will be more dangerous.
For
And
sure.
Texans will become the ultimate favorite to go for the AFC.
For sure.
If they can do that, if they can find these coverages, defeat them, and CJ Stroud can literally just be a game manager, they will be there. And that's what I want to say. For the Steelers, on their side, it was hard for me tonight. Hard for me tonight because I grew up Aaron Rodgers. I saw him. I saw him obliterate my teams. I saw him beat Dallas. I saw him make all these throws around the field. Aaron Rodgers finally looked mortal to me. I know the New York Jets was a forgettable last year, but now Aaron Rodgers, I believe, is done in the NFL. He does not need to prove anything anymore. I wish he would have had another ring. He's done. And he needs to know that. And I think he knows that. Now that it sucks that it's a pick six is the last thing that he is going to have on his resume, I hope people forget that. I know Texans fans won't forget that.
Yeah.
But the idea, Mike Tomlin, I appreciate you, man, but you got to go. You have to go. That was embarrassing. That was embarrassing on a lot of things. The fact is you made the playoffs last year. You didn't get far. All these years, your first 8 seasons in the NFL, they put it on broadcast, 5-2. These rest of 3-10 now. 3-10. I get it that she got 500. I get it that she got winning seasons. But that's not playoff football. That's not winning football.
Nope.
If you're not going to be a coach anymore, if you don't want it, if you wanted something new, go be a podcast. Do what we're doing. Or even be a broadcast analyst. Do something on a postgame. I think it's done.
Yeah.
I think the headset's gone. I think it's time to turn off. You not only, I appreciate what he's done in the NFL. I'll never disregard what he's done, but he's also made the Steelers look like a laughing stock. Tell me one fan in that building not just booed them, but put them on the screen on the camera, looked so disappointed and just distraught out.
Yeah.
From the tale of two halves, last week to this week, man.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for Pittsburgh. I feel bad for that whole franchise. They've gone through a lot. And this is the franchise is 6 Super Bowls, right? 6 Super Bowls. The most Super Bowls of a team. Besides one player, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
If this is the most team, the last time they went to the Super Bowl was 2010 when they lost to the Green Bay Packers. Before that was the Cardinals. You have not touched a Super Bowl
No, you haven't.
or been Super Bowl in 15 years. Do you want to make another 15 years go past you and become the new Dallas Cowboys? That's what I want to say.
Yeah. I mean, they've got 2 playoff wins in the last 10 years, and they've been in the playoffs many of these last 10 years, right? It's been an inability to not just get it done in January, but to have a roster capable of getting it done in January. And a lot of that is on Tomlin, because Tomlin has a huge say in personnel decisions, and he has a huge say in his coordinators. And I look at the Steelers team right now, and clearly, like, defense has had its issues for sure this year. Clearly, the offense is an issue. I mean, when DK Metcalf was out, the offense looked really, really bad. And then they hardly even targeted Metcalf in the second half of this game tonight. He had a pretty crucial drop in the first half that kind of ruined their momentum. But, you know, you just watched your division rival, the Baltimore Ravens, fire their coach, John Harbaugh. Very similar situation. John Harbaugh and the Ravens had been to the playoffs many, many times, but he had an inability to get it done when it mattered most. And that's what Tomlin has shown. And I think you either got to get rid of Tomlin and go and take a leap for a more innovative, more modern head coach, a more modern offensive coordinator, or modern DC. There's a lot of good, really, really good defensive coordinators in this upcoming coaching cycle. Or if you're keeping Tomlin, you got to blow it up and you got to do a proper rebuild, because they haven't done a proper rebuild yet, right? The reason that Tomlin has this streak of this many years without going below 500 is because they've always had mediocre rosters, and they just refuse to rebuild, trade some of the stars, build through the draft, and then really do it that way. Because look at what New England did. New England lost Tom Brady. And then, yeah, they had the Mac Jones year, but they said, you know what, look, we're rebuilding, right? We had our time with Tom Brady. We got our Super Bowl window was closed. They rebuilt, and guess what? They're the 2 seed this year. They won 14 games, and they have an MVP candidate because they showed a willingness to rebuild. The Steelers are not showing that. They're attached to winning 9, 10 games and just being content with exiting the playoffs in the first round. So, that's the story with them. Rodgers, if this is the end, amazing career, for some of the newer fans, like some of the, like my brother's 16 years old. He's been watching football the last 3 or 4 years. Like they're gonna think of Rodgers of this Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Jets version of Rodgers. Like the people like me and you, like we saw the MVP seasons, we saw the greatness. The Super Bowl back in 2010 when they beat the Packers, and so we know about Rodgers. But Houston, man, you said it best. C.J. Stroud, you just got to be a game manager. That's it, and that's been the key. They entered the playoffs winning 9 straight games, and it was on the basis of Davis Mills, because Davis Mills was at the beginning of it when C.J. Stroud had the concussion, and C.J. Stroud just weren't making mistakes. When you have this great defense, it's okay to punt, dude. Like it's okay to play the field position game when you have an elite defense like you have. And tonight, against the Steelers team, you got away with turning the ball over 3 times, right? Because the Steelers offense, they don't have the offense to make you pay when you turn the ball over in their territory or at midfield. But the offenses you'll have to play the rest of the way are going to be better than Pittsburgh's. And if you turn the ball over 3 times, it's not going to be as sustainable as it was tonight. This was a 7-6 game, very late into the game until Houston broke it open. Nico Collins, concussion.
Yeah.
Nico Collins, concussion. That's their alpha. That's their wide receiver 1. You said it best. Christian Kirk had 140 yards tonight. Is that sustainable? Probably not. They've got him. They've got 2 rookies from Iowa State between Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. They've got Xavier Hutchinson. You've got Dalton Schultz. It's a bunch of Jags. It's a bunch of just the guys at wide receiver and tight end. And they're going to have to get it done. And you know what? They can because of the defense. But C.J. Stroud, just be a game manager. Don't turn the ball over. Don't try and be a superhero tonight. One of his fumbles was a bad snap. Okay, that's fine. It's a bad snap. You got the ball back. Collect yourself. Throw it out of bounds, dirt the ball. Instead, he tried to make a play, and then he fumbled it again and gave it right back to the Steelers. So you just got to just be a manager, just manage the game. So is there anything else you got on Houston, Pittsburgh before we wrap things up here?
Never know. Look at Steelers, hit the reset button.
Yep.
Find what you need to do for a franchise. Maybe it's the whole total reset. Maybe that bounces you back for 2-3 years. Fine. Take the 2-3 years, but at least you got to build something. Because right now, it's an embarrassment. Mm-hmm. It's an embarrassment to your franchise, to your historic. I don't care about winning 500 games. I don't care about all those things. That's something that's just embarrassing. For Houston, hey, you look alive, man. For a team that's only been around for 24 years now, I mean, hey, your chances are good as any for this Lombardi.
For sure. And it would be, Texans haven't had a Super Bowl appearance. So that is in the cards. The Bills haven't been in a long, long time. And, of course, the Patriots and Broncos have been more in recent times. But there's a chance we get some new blood in the AFC and the Super Bowl picture as we move on. So me and you will be back here a week from today, maybe even if we end up doing Sunday night after the game's on Sunday to talk divisional football. At that point, there will only be 4 teams left. So this has been an unbelievable season, unbelievable wildcard weekend, even though it ended on a 30-6 blowout. So to everyone, I appreciate you being here. These podcasts, they do mean a lot. Me and Zach hopping on, just talking ball. That's what we love doing. And as for the Offsetting Penalties podcast, I'll be previewing the divisional round, some more UFC content on the way. Zach, if you want to plug your channels and say your goodbye, please do.
Yeah, always. Hey, well, Gametime Grech, you know where to find me on Instagram. Appreciate you guys. Always keep looking at it, man. Hey, Joe is up and coming. He's doing what he's doing, man. He's one of the best in the game, and he's coming at it for everything. He's passionate, and that's all you got to do. You got to spread the love of sports and combine it, and that's what we all want to do is just tell a story and enjoy it. So yeah, you know where to find me. Appreciate you guys, and hey, get ready. The divisional round, it's going to be a brutal one, but it's also going to be a entertaining one as well.
Absolutely. So catch us next week, recapping the divisional round. Catch me previewing it and talking some UFC as the fights ramp up. First UFC card of the year is next Saturday. Big things happening in the MMA world, and big things, of course, happening in the NFL world. So I appreciate you, Zach. I appreciate anyone who's psycho enough to be